Hey YouTube friends, welcome to my tiny garden. My name is Adriana and I garden in beautiful Transylvania, Romania, zone 6B. And today we are going to talk about training tomatoes up a string. Now, I don't claim to be an expert in tomatoes. Heck, in fact, I'm very much a beginner. This is just my third year growing tomatoes. But I did make some mistakes along the way, so I thought there was a better way of growing them inside my tiny garden. A way that is clean, a way that allows for better airflow. And I'm going to share all of that with you from the very beginning, from the seedling stage. I have here about 18 tomato seedlings. So the most important thing when growing indeterminate tomatoes, like I'm growing behind me, is not allowing them to form more than one stem, two at a maximum. With cherry tomatoes, maybe I'm going to allow 2 stems to grow upwards. And that's just because I like to grow them very close together. I don't use cages. They get really tall, so I don't want to allow any suckers to take away from my main tomato stem. If you're new to tomato growing and don't know what suckers are, I'm going to show you in a minute. But what you need to remember is that if left untouched, suckers are going to grow a new stem and your tomato is just going to turn into a bushy, tangled mess, which attracts humidity and fungus and disease. So you don't want that to happen. And if you keep your tomatoes growing in one single stem, then you're going to be able to plant them much closer together, like I have in this bed. This distance is really not recommended, but I've done this before and it worked for me. So let's start from the beginning and see what kind of vertical support you'll need, what kind of twine, how to secure that twine to the ground or the tomato plant, and lastly, how to train the tomato plant up the string. I'll take you with me and show you. Okay, so first things first, the vertical structure. It can be anything. My husband built this very useful, albeit not the prettiest support, but I needed something custom made because our tomatoes will get really tall. But you can secure them to metal posts, to anything you can think of. I don't have any advice to give here because my DIY skills are basically non-existent. But this is what we used for our tomatoes. And for the purposes of this video, I left some tomatoes untouched and unpruned, and we're gonna do this together. So I attached a piece of twine for every single tomato. I recommend synthetic twine as opposed to natural twine, just because it doesn't have that much give and it won't stretch as much. I might have choked some tomatoes and tied it too snugly, but I can always untie it and give it some slack. So this is the end result. This is how the tomatoes look after I've pruned them and I tied them, and we're going to do the same thing with this cherry tomato over here. So we tie the twine to the top. We do some loops over there just because at the end of the season you're going to want to lower your tomatoes down to have more access to them, so try to get as many loops in there as you can. And over here at the bottom, we've actually secured the twine in the ground with landscaping staple, because our soil is pretty dry and it holds in the ground really well. But there are a couple of ways to do this. So you can actually tie it at the base of the tomatoes, make a knot on the stem, but make sure to prune the stem first. Or you could bury it. Charles Dowding does this, and I've seen it in his videos. You can bury it right when you plant the tomato seedlings. We planted them prior to installing the twine, so I couldn't do that, but I think it's a good way to do it. And next we are going to prune the heck out of this tomato plant. So first, we're going to get rid of all the leaves that are touching the ground, and I'm gonna use my hand for this and just snip them off. These are weeds, right? And this is a sucker, but it's not the best example because I already snipped the leaf off. Okay, so a sucker, you're gonna find about 1,000,000 of these videos on YouTube, but if you've never seen one, I'm going to show one for you. This is the main stem, this is the tomato leaf, and this diagonal, you notice a 90-degree angle, and diagonally you're going to see the sucker. Now when it's small, it's really easy to identify, but when it gets bigger, that's where the fun begins to tell which is which. So over here, another example, we have the base leaf and the sucker, and I'm going to pinch both of them off. You want to pinch the leaves off the plant up until about here, because you don't want spores and fungus splashing from the soil to the leaves, and this is the best way to do it. Okay, we continue to do this for the entire plant until we reach the top. Identify and remove all the suckers. You can use fine scissors for these. I have scissors somewhere, but didn't bother to take them for this video. Okay, and clean your scissors in between plants. Okay, we got to the top. Now underneath the flower truss, which is over here, doesn't focus, but that's okay. We're going to usually find, actually always find, a sucker, which I just removed, but sometimes when the flowers are really small, it's not that noticeable. And over here we have the top. If you accidentally snip the top off, you just leave another sucker to develop and turn into the main stem, so no worries there. Okay, after we've done all this, we're just going to, it's kind of hard to do this with one hand, so just hang on a second. Okay, much better. After we've done all the pruning, then and only then we can start wrapping this, because with leaves it's going to be much harder. So do your pruning first, and you can just get creative with it and wrap it around your plant like so. And as the plant grows, it's going to be much easier than at this stage. So I've wrapped it securely. I'm going to go up my ladder and tie it to the top. Now I never know exactly how tightly to tie it, but I can always give it some slack. If I think it's too tight, make a bunch of loops at the top and just tie it off. And lastly, every week or twice a week, if they're growing really fast, whenever you come prune your tomatoes, you can actually grab them and give them a twist. Be sure not to hurt flowers and fruit, and just give them 1 or 2 twists and they're ready to go to grow upwards. Thanks for watching my short guide on string training tomatoes. If you're more experienced with this and you have some tips and tricks to share, please leave them in the comments below, and leave a like if you've enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel, it really helps me grow. And don't forget to check my blog, it's called tinygardenhabit.com. I'll see you in the next video, and until next time, happy gardening. Bye!